Well, Razorback fans, we know that Arkansas has 4 games left of the SEC regular season in basketball. Is it fair to expect them to go undefeated the rest of the way? Well, let's talk about it on today's Locked On Razorbacks podcast.
You are Locked On Razorbacks, your daily podcast on the Arkansas Razorbacks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome into Locked On Razorbacks podcast. I am your host, John Neighbors. I am also the host of Inside Arkansas Live, which you can catch every weekday starting at noon on Inside Arkansas and InsideArkansas.com. It's been a while since we've been able to do one of these, but hey, that's what happens when you're so busy. Got a lot of time, a lot of things to talk about with Razorbacks, but it's a THV 11 Tuesday. So we got to welcome in our friend of THV 11, the sports director, Tyler Cass, here onto the podcast. And Tyler, it's been a minute, man. How you been?
Yeah, no, I've been, trapped in the Lexington airport, but I finally got, no, I'm kidding. But yeah, no, it's been good. Glad to be back on. Glad to see you back, at full strength as well.
Yeah, I know. It feels like I have so much freedom with my hands. I don't know what to do with them now. So it's great. It's absolutely great to be back into the normal side of things. And it's also great to see the Razorback basketball team once again, in the NCAA tournament conversation. I know they're technically still a bubble team right now, but it looks like they're in really great shape to kind of take those steps forward. So before we get into kind of the rest of the slate, and we know that they play Texas tomorrow, just what do you make of the way that Arkansas has been playing over the past few games, even in the losses against A&M and Auburn, playing much better? Just what have you attributed to that, and why do you think they have been playing some of their best basketball recently?
Yeah, I mean, look, Coach Calipari was very blatant, especially after that A&M loss. We're not taking any moral victories. We need to win some of these games. Stop, saying, oh, we're playing better. But I think now that they finished a game and beat Missouri, we can kind of retroactively go back and be like, okay, yeah, but they still looked good against A&M. They still looked good against Alabama. And I think so much of that has been kind of what the strength of this team has been. All SEC play, just ratcheted it up a notch, which has been the defense. The way that they play defensively just gives them such a great chance to stick around in all these ball games. And where they were faltering a little bit was they just lose the ability to play offense in the final 5 minutes of a game. And then we see what happens against Missouri when that isn't the case, and they actually get a few shots to fall. Guys start playing a little better. And it's been heartening as well to see how many different guys step up, because I mean, it was all Big Z for a couple games there. They were losing, but he was dropping 25 a night. Then he completely disappeared. But hey, look, there's Carter Knox existing. Hey, look, Jonas Adu, Trevin Brazil got a dunk at least. Like just little things that when you put them all together, I mean, they just hadn't been getting. They hadn't been getting the ball to bounce their way. Now they are a little bit, and yeah, I mean, beating Missouri, like I said, they're on the bubble. It feels a lot better though than that sounds. Like you hear on the bubble and your stress level just ratchets up. But the kind of bubble that Arkansas is on feels a little less stressful.
Yeah, and for Arkansas now in these final 4 games, it's not easy in the SEC. We know that. Like the SEC is extremely difficult. But that being said, if you're going to have a final 4 game stretch of the conference slate, it's about as easy as you'll ever get. Again, and not saying it's easy, but comparatively speaking, it's pretty solid. You got Texas at home. You go on the road to South Carolina as well as Vanderbilt, and then you end the season with Mississippi State at home. I'm not saying Arkansas is going to go 4-0 for sure, but I could see Arkansas winning all 4 of those games. So what do you make of Arkansas in those matchups and in those games? And say if they did go 4-0, which would put them at 9-9 in SEC play, I believe 20-11 overall. Where does that put Arkansas in the NCAA tournament conversation, where they went from 1-6 to 9-9 and possibly having a really solid seed considering where they were just a few weeks ago?
Yeah, I mean, that's what it does. You start talking about seed versus are they in the tournament. And I think we're right on the the cusp of being able to do that anyways. Is you're playing for seed line, not just trying to play your way in to the NCAA tournament, which again it's got to feel like a weight off their backs. Now that being said, that's where you have to lean on what Coach Cal is how he treats these last 4 games. Is it all right? We beat Missouri. Now we're not playing with that edge anymore, because he was really kind of stressing that of like, hey, we're going to determine our own future, not the committee. Or is it we beat Missouri, now keep the ball rolling, go in each game? And you hope that's the mindset they have. You also hope that they have enough guys out there. I think that becomes the bigger factor. And Arkansas is not going to tell us anything more than day to day when it comes to Adou Thiero, but it's a very different team with him out. Obviously, one of the most consistent guys all season long when it comes to just like, all right, we need a bucket. Who can you get the ball to? And also from a defensive standpoint, just really, really good defense. It's just so annoying to play against, I have to imagine. But from a pure depth standpoint, I mean, and I think Cal has said this. This is a one year experiment with the whole scholarship guy thing, and I think going forward he will actually have his full amount of scholarship players or something closer to it than what we saw this year, because it did backfire a little bit. The depth of this team is an issue, especially with how they want to play. I mean, I talk about defensive intensity, that takes it out of a team. If you're not dropping 110, 120 points. I mean, those are NBA numbers, not really college basketball. But if you're not a team that can go out there and light it up on an offensive basis, night to night, you need to be playing all out on the defensive end, and that takes it out of guys. And I think we kind of saw that down the stretch, especially against A&M, which that's just Texas A&M basketball. It's the ugliest form of basketball that exists. And shout out to Buzz. He knows how to do it. But gosh, I can't imagine even being an A&M fan and having to watch that 30 times a year. But they get banged up down the stretch. They get tired down the stretch. And if they're down another scholarship guy, that would be, I think, the biggest thing in my brain that keeps them from going 4-0 or even 3-1 down the stretch here, is if Thiero is out for any extended period of time, these guys are just going to get tired. And there's only so many matchups you can start playing defensively. That's another good thing about that Missouri win, is it bought them that little bit of cushion. You can go 3-1. Heck, I think you can go 2-2, win a game in the SEC tournament. That's where I'm at. You need 3 wins the rest of the way, regular season and SEC tournament combined, to feel totally comfortable on Selection Sunday. As this team is constructed right now, I don't think that is a very tall task. But if they keep losing guys by attrition, it could get a little worse.
Yeah, no, you mentioned Thiero. It's like I don't want to. No one's going to make excuses. No one's going to feel sorry for Arkansas. But good grief! I mean, the amount of injuries that they've dealt with. Of course, we know losing Boogie Flan for the year, and we know how guys have been banged up. Big Z's been banged up. Trevor Brazil's been banged up. Nelly Davis has been banged up. It's going to happen. I know we're kind of looking ahead, but do you think that Cal maybe is just like, you know what? I'm not going to do this 8-man roster anymore. I'm going to get some more guys next season. I know that's, again, way down the road, but do you feel like just this year maybe was a lesson learned in that Cal and the team, they tried something, didn't work out, so they're going to mix it up again next year?
I hope so. I think it's just less stressful for everyone involved when you have, 10, 11, 12 guys who maybe you don't want to play a 10-man rotation. No one really does, but it's still nice to have the back end of your bench be someone who you are fine giving 5 minutes to in an SEC game. And Cal clearly is not okay with that right now. He brought in guys who are, I say this with absolutely no offense in the world, but they exist to be practice squad players. They are glorified managers. I didn't think that going into the season. I thought they might be guys who in non-con games we might see at the end of games just to see, hey, show me something. But Cal clearly doesn't have any kind of faith in them at all to do anything. So why should we? I think it would be foolish for John Calipari to repeat that experiment this season. And to his credit, I mean, he was always kind of upfront about this being trying something. I don't think he was saying this is the future of college basketball and I'm at the forefront of it and this is what I'm always going to do. It was, well, I've kind of seen how things are going. I'm going to give this a shot. I'm not developing guys for other teams, and we'll see. And it hasn't quite backfired as much as it could, but it has definitely not been a positive for the Razorbacks. So, yeah, I mean, hopefully for everyone's sake, the back end of the bench is guys who can play in the SEC.
We'll talk a little Razorback baseball here on a THB 11 Tuesday here on Locked On Razorbacks podcast, so stay with us. All right, Razorback fans, I'm going to tell you about our great friends over at, of course, Prize Picks. We know we talk about a lot about Prize Picks, and with March basketball about to be here, there's no better place to get in on the action than with Prize Picks. It's the best place for daily fantasy sports. With Prize Picks, you pick more or less on at least 2 different player projections, and if you're right, you can win up to 1,000 times your cash. It's fast, it's easy, and it keeps every single game exciting. This week, you got to look at other players, whether it's in the NBA or even college basketball, and it can be points, it can be rebounds, it can be assists, it can be anything like that. All you got to do is just pick more or less. Very simple, 50-50 shot at it. And you can make it easy and you get your payouts in as little as 15 minutes It's that simple. So download the app today and use code LOCKEDONCollege to get $50 instantly when you play your first $5 lineup. That's promo code LOCKEDONCollege for $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. It's Prize Picks. Run your game. All right, continuing on our conversation with Tyler Cass of THV 11 here on the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. So, Tyler, I know Razorback baseball still is going to have a bunch of games, a lot of season left, a lot of crazy things to go through and to happen. But we've seen 2 weekends of them, essentially. 7 games. They had 1 loss, which they took 1-L to the Kansas State team down there in Arlington in game 1, 3-2. But just your overall takeaways so far from what we've seen from the Razorback baseball, things you like, things you don't like, everything.
I don't like Gage Wood leaving the game early. That's the number one. That's way worse to me than losing 3-2 to Kansas State. I know people are still hurting from the regional loss to them, and Kansas State didn't have a good opening weekend, so it looked really bad. But hey, then they went and hung 10 runs on TCU the next day, so it is what it is. I think this Arkansas rotation, from what we've seen, if Gage Wood is in it, unquestionably the best in the country. And you're seeing, I mean, that's something that the national guys fully acknowledge. Like, Gage Wood would be pitching on Saturdays and maybe Fridays, maybe in a majority of other schools right now. And he's the Sunday guy. And I mean, for the last, 50 years of college baseball or whatever, a lot of schools don't even have a Sunday guy. Sunday is just someone who, you're trying out guys who start in the midweek. It's long relievers. It's starter by bullpen. Like, the luxury of having 3 Friday to Saturday level starters, and probably even 4, because Beidelshees looks really good too. It can't be missed. Now, if Gage Wood is missing a significant amount of time, this Arkansas, lineup is better situated than I think in years past to deal with a loss like that. Because again, you got Beidelshees, who is a weekend starter. David Horn said that. There's a reason he started game 4 against Washington State. But just any kind of depth loss this early in the season, you'd hate to see. So, look, you were never going to replace Hagen Smith with a Hagen Smith. That's an all-time guy right there. But Hagen Smith by committee is looking pretty darn good so far. Now, the flip side of things, obviously, is the offense, where I know Hog fans very gun shy over the last couple of years. Saying the words Nate Thompson can feel like a slur to some people. I tweeted something like, "I'm not terrified yet," and I had to mute that because I just had people coming at me. And look, I get it. Like, it has been rough the last couple of years, and you've seen just this kind of stubbornness, I think, in all kinds of ways on Arkansas offensively, not shifting the lineup around, not taking out guys when they've been struggling for not just weeks but months, not changing the approach based on the situation or the count. But from what I saw the last, other than that Kansas State game, there have been a lot of changes made. I mean, opening weekend, they were bunting, they were stealing, and I'm on the record as I hate bunts guy, but that's just because I'm a big Major League Baseball guy, and the math is very clear in Major League Baseball. 9 times out of 10, if you're bunting, you're putting yourself in a worse position. In college, it's a lot different because guys aren't as good defenders. But they were bunting, they were stealing bases, and they were moving guys over. They were shifting things in the lineup. They were manufacturing runs. And then you saw the same thing against TCU. It wasn't an offensive explosion, but there was a pinch hitter. There was a sacrifice fly to move guys over. Like, they had their backs against the wall against very good pitching. And rather than just, swing through an 0-2 pitch and loft it deep to shallow center field, they got the job done. They pushed runs across. And then they, took advantage of some Michigan mistakes and actually put up some runs. So they're not, tearing the roof off of things every single game this year, but there's a lot of little things that feel different to me offensively from the last couple of years that make me feel a little bit more hopeful that, hey, when the ball isn't flying out of the ballpark, they can still score some runs when they need to. Obviously, we're going to see a lot more consistent, good competition once we get to SEC play, but that's what this month is for, is just trying things out and seeing what works. And so far, I like the diversity that I see on offense.
Well, Tyler, before what you get out of here, what's going on at THV 11? I know it's always busy down there during the sports season, but what you guys got in store here during the late February, early March months?
Well, just because I think Nick forgets sometimes when he's on here to plug himself. Ludy's Look Back is his little show that he puts together every weekend, looking back at not just the Razorbacks but all of our local college teams, which is a big deal right now because I mean Razorback men, like we said, feel like a as long as they take care of business lock for the NCAA tournament, but Arkansas State men, Arkansas State women, Little Rock men, Little Rock women, and UCA women all have shots at the NCAA tournament. We cover all those guys down here, and they're a lot of fun. And do I think we're going to have, if all those make it, 6 different teams to cover in March? Probably not. Other than the Razorbacks, those are all one bid leagues. You're going to have to win their conference tournaments. But those are all teams that are going to be top 2, maybe 3 seeds in their conference tournaments, a chance to make a run. It's going to be a lot of fun, and we've got all those covered as well. Plus, it's the last week of the high school basketball regular season. Road to Hot Springs gets going, and we're going to be all over that here as well. Some great high school basketball in the state. It's going to be a lot of fun.
That's Tyler Cass. You can catch him each and every day there at THV 11 in the Central Arkansas area. Always a lot of great things going on, and it's been a THV 11 Tuesday here on Locked On. So as always, Tyler, appreciate it. Enjoy the week, man, and we'll be catching up with you next week.
Sounds good. Thanks, man.